Hello, hello, hello. I hope all is well with you out there. This is Attorney Don Dennis, and you are here at the law office of Don Dennis's YouTube channel, where we are devoted to breaking down the law, breaking down situations, and explaining them in plain English. So whether you wear a white collar, blue collar, or no collar, the goal is that you leave the video understanding what is going on. So, by request of some of my faithful listeners, I was asked to give my opinion and provide some thoughts on the brawl, on the attacks, on the fight that broke out in Alabama with respect to the co-captain, Damien Pickett, and when he was attacked by the thugs when he was in the process of just trying to do his job. And I'm not going to replay the video because it's all over the internet. I'm sure you've seen it. You've seen it from different angles, and you're quite familiar with all the individuals that were in the video. A shout out to Corey. He said, "We are here, and I am glad you are here." But what I am going to talk about is what it takes to actually prove criminal charges. Because the other day there was a press conference with the police chief, and he stated that they're bringing the toughest charges that they can at this point, and they said more charges may be coming. So what exactly does that mean? You know, I like watching this show on Netflix, and it's called Slashers, and on Slasher, the Slasher. So on the Slasher, it's a guy, he's running around killing people, a typical horror story. However, people get bruised, people get hurt. But at the end of the day, we know that they're all actors. There's lighting crew, camera crew, a director, a producer. Everyone is standing around watching it. They take off the makeup, they go home, and everything is back to normal. But that's not the situation here. This is not a movie. This is not a TV show. This is not a game. Someone was attacked. And as a matter of fact, what they say is that the police have two victims. One is Damien Pickett, the man that threw his hat in the air, the co-captain of the Harriet II. But the second victim is a 16-year-old white male, which was the young boy, the juvenile that was near Mr. Pickett temporarily, and he got hit also. So just think about that for a moment. Where in society can you hit a child, an adult, grown man hit a child and just come up with some very minimal charges for that? That's a little weird to me. But nevertheless, let's focus in, because the police chief, yes, they arrest people. However, who ultimately is going to prosecute this case? Prosecute means who's going to charge the people that are the criminals, take them to court, and put them on trial. It is the Montgomery County District Attorney. So who exactly is the district attorney? Well, I'm glad you're interested. I looked that up. And let's pull that up real quick. I'm going to share my screen with you. And the district attorney's name is Daryl Bailey. Interestingly enough, the chief of police name is Daryl as well. But nevertheless, this is Daryl D. Bailey. He is the Montgomery County District Attorney in charge of the DA's office. And when you go scroll on their website, it says that he's a family man, he belongs to church, a lifelong member, and also he is a Sunday school teacher and a deacon in the children's ministry. So why does this matter? Well, if you're a Sunday school teacher and you're not familiar, what that is when you go to churches, they will have a thing called Sunday school, typically for children, where children go before the regular church service and they learn about God and learn about the gospel. So also he is the deacon in charge in the children's ministry. I don't know if he's in charge, but he's a deacon in the children's ministry, because as you can see, all of these titles are from the past to the present, meaning they are still going on right now. So Mr. Bailey is very familiar, and it appears that he takes the needs and the interest of children very seriously, especially by a promotional video that is also on their website where he talks about advocating for children. So since that is the case, and we have a 16-year-old victim who I consider a child because you're not an adult yet, we're looking for the Montgomery County District Attorney to advocate, not just for Mr. Pickett, but for the other victim, the 16-year-old white male, and they're not disclosing his name because he's a child. So with that being said, a lot of people are very suspicious of these charges that have been brought thus far. Why are they suspicious? They're suspicious because the only charge that they've brought against all of the attackers is third-degree assault. Well, what does third-degree assault give you? If you're guilty of third-degree assault, it's a Class A misdemeanor, which means you face a fine of only up to $6,000 and probation or 1 year of prison or hard labor. So these are all options that you're laying out if you successfully prove beyond a reasonable doubt that someone is guilty of these charges. This is all that they'll get, up to $6,000. So not automatically they'll be fined $6,000, but possibly up to $6,000. And then it's not an automatic that individuals are going to go to jail. It is, you can be sentenced to probation or up to 1 year in prison. So yeah, as Corey's saying, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. And that's why people lose faith in the justice system when they see charges like this being thrown out. And when you have a press conference and the police chief says, we're charging the individuals to the highest degree possible. We've talked to the FBI and we've talked to see if there was a hate crime possible. And they're saying, no, we don't think so at this time, but more charges are coming. So since they're saying that more charges are possibly coming, what we're going to talk about tonight, since I took a look at some criminal laws in Alabama and of the federal hate crime law, we're going to talk about what possible charges they might consider. Now, again, a lot of these charges are based on the degree of injury that was sustained by the victims. So what we have from most recent reports is that Damien Pickett, the older gentleman that was attacked, that all the crowd was jumping on and fighting until people came to his defense, he was taken to emergency and suffered bruised ribs and bumps on his head. So I don't know if they deem a bruised rib or multiple bruised ribs as a serious injury. I would think it's a serious injury because when I did some research, if you have bruised ribs, that affects your ability to breathe. They're not broken, but it does hurt. It can cause substantial pain. In addition, think about it. You have to be hit pretty hard to sustain lumps in your head. People get in fights all the time and they might get a black eye. They might get a bruised lip or a slight scar, but he is saying he has bumps on his head. Mr. Bailey, does that qualify as a serious physical injury? If someone came into the church or came into a gathering that you were present at and you saw them attack a child, would we be able to come up with any charges beyond just a third-degree assault? I don't know. But nevertheless, also they could have charged these individuals with second-degree assault, which means that it's again based on the level of injury. And the elements, meaning what you have to prove is you intentionally cause serious injury to someone. And you cause the injury with reckless conduct. What I saw in the video appeared to be quite reckless action. However, as an attorney, we have to look into these definitions, and I'm going to share my screen with you so we can pay close attention as to what we're talking about. So here's another possible charge, since they're saying they weren't quite certain what all to charge these individuals with. Another possible charge under Alabama law is reckless endangerment. When you recklessly engage in conduct which creates a substantial risk of serious physical injury to another person. What is serious physical injury? According to the law, Alabama defines it as creating a substantial risk of death or causing serious and protracted disfigurement, protracted impairment of health, or protracted loss or impairment of any bodily organ. Well, let's think about the video, since everyone likely has seen the video. If you have 4 or 5 people standing over you, hitting you, could that create a substantial risk of death? Yes, it could. When the victim was laying on the ground, Mr. Pickett getting hit, getting kicked, he didn't know what might happen to him. He has no idea. That no one was hitting him and then they said on their own nice accord, oh, we'll stop. We were just playing. We overreacted. That's enough. No, I believe he might have been at substantial risk of death, because had no one intervened, it was going to continue. And again, we have a definition according to the statute of reckless behavior, which means that you are aware of and consciously disregard a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the result will occur or circumstance exists. So did they act recklessly? They consciously disregarded Mr. Pickett's life, Mr. Pickett's well-being, and they continue to attack him. You saw one guy come in and knee him and jump on him. So I believe they acted in a very reckless manner. So I submit to the Montgomery DA, consider filing a reckless endangerment charge against these individuals. Second of all, since we're finding a lack of ability to find charges to file against these people, what about under Alabama law, a menacing charge? Menacing means you intentionally place or attempt to place another person in fear of imminent serious physical injury. I definitely think if you're laying on the ground and someone is attacking you and they're brutally hitting you and they're cursing you, as he said, they cursed him out, they were placing him in imminent serious physical injury. I don't see what more needs to be said about this. I think this is a charge that they could have hit the people with. Inciting a riot. Now, if you listen to the police chief's press conference, he said specifically they did not have evidence of inciting a riot. So since he said that, I said, well, let me take a look at what the statute says. And what the law says or statute says is if you command, solicit, incite, or urge another to engage in tumultuous and violent conduct of a kind likely to cause or create a grave risk of public terror or alarm. Well, we have a group of people that are surrounding this man, kicking him and pushing him onto the ground, and they're urging each other because they're all working together. That seems like that fits the first part of the definition, that you're engaging people. Obviously, we know that the conduct was tumultuous and violent. They weren't giving him hugs. They weren't patting him on the back. They were kicking and punching and making sure he was being held down. So there's not a question if it was likely to cause harm or public terror. You had people watching. You had more people running from the boat to attack the man. So I don't know what more it takes to define that it was public terror or causing an alarm in the area. Again, these terms are often defined based off of case law and as it's applied in different cases. But as I read the statute, it clearly looks like they could have charged all 4 of the individuals thus far. Now, it's interesting that they're only charging 4 of the people, because when you watch multiple camera shots, you see at least 5 or 6 people at some points standing around the individual. So why are they only charging 4 at this point? Why is it so hard to have detained these individuals? That's a very interesting question. And again, we're just posing questions. We're just asking, trying to get more information, the same way they're investigating, trying to get more information as well. Are there any other charges possibly we would ask the Montgomery District Attorney to consider. Disorderly conduct. Interestingly enough, they certainly charged the gentleman that they said was wielding the chair all over the place. They charged him with disorderly conduct. Why didn't they charge the 4, 5, or 6 attackers that were attacking Mr. Pickett with disorderly conduct? Why didn't they charge the gentleman that hit the 16-year-old boy with disorderly conduct? So what exactly is disorderly conduct? A person commits the crime of disorderly conduct if, with the intent to cause public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm, or recklessly creating a risk thereof, he does any of the following. So if you do any of the following, you don't have to do all of them. You do any of the following, you are committing the crime of disorderly conduct. Let's go to an easy one. Making unreasonable noise. They were cursing at the man. Everybody on the boat saw them cursing at the man. If you see some of the audio video, they're repeatedly cursing at the man. That seems like disorderly conduct. But if that's not enough, let's go to number 3. In public places, using abusive or obscene language or making an obscene gesture. It is without question that they said for over 3 or 4 minutes, the men that were standing along the dock were giving obscene gestures, maybe the middle finger and all types of things. So, Mr. District Attorney, does this qualify as a charge of disorderly conduct? Mr. Police Chief, does this qualify as a charge of disorderly conduct that could have been made against all these individuals? What else? Number 5, obstructing vehicular or pedestrian traffic or a transportation facility. Does the dock qualify as a transportation facility? It does allow boats to transport people, such as the Harriet II, which had over 200 passengers aboard. Is that not a transportation facility? Did they not obstruct it by making the boat have to sit in the water for an extra 45 minutes after it completed a 2-hour tour? And they talked about the importance of this tour, about how they were helping children. Again, the district attorney is gravely concerned and very motivated about children that were doing something in relation with Hyundai. So it appears that since the boat couldn't park, they were obstructing traffic. But I don't know. That's how I saw it. And then obviously I skipped over number 1, but engaging in fighting or in violent, tumultuous, or threatening behavior. They jumped on the man, so they were fighting him. They were threatening him. Not even threatening behavior. They actually carried out the behavior. So why are they not also being charged with disorderly conduct? Because yes, a lot of these charges are misdemeanors, and each misdemeanor means that you would go to jail for a year or less and maybe pay a fine. But if it's so hard to find charges, why can't these be added on? I am not an attorney that practices in Alabama, so I can't say I'm an expert in Alabama law, but it didn't take me that long to figure this out. Again, let's keep moving. Lastly, this is what everyone is wondering about. Why were these men and women not charged with a federal hate crime? A federal hate crime, all they need to prove is that you willfully caused bodily injury based on race. By several witness accounts, they were cursing Mr. Pickett out. They were calling him derogatory words, the N-word, and all kinds of things like that. So why did the police chief say he spoke with the FBI, and the FBI says, well, we don't have a hate crime here? How don't you? What more does it take? I don't understand. Because all of these other crimes that they're pulling out, a 1-year jail sentence at most, or hard labor, or a fine, that is not sufficient if you want the public to believe in law enforcement, if you want the public to have trust in law enforcement and say, you know what, we'll leave it to law enforcement to enforce what the law is and to provide justice. Because that's all people are saying they want. They want people to be treated the same way, regardless of skin color. If a certain ethnicity does something, they get a certain punishment and they want that to be equal for everyone. Otherwise, you don't have justice. Otherwise, things are not fair. And that's what everyone is watching, and all eyes are on Montgomery to see how they handle this. So if they were charged with a hate crime, a federal hate crime, what could happen? Well, they could get a penalty, each of them, if it was proven, of up to 10 years in prison or up to $250,000 in fines. So if they can find that these people willfully, which means intentionally, caused Mr. Pickett bodily harm, and it was based on his race, then they have enough to file federal hate crime charges. So again, I'm not going to rush to say that they're done charging. I'm not going to say that the case is over, obviously, because they haven't went to trial yet. But all I wanted to do is make a point that at this point in the process, these charges look pretty flimsy. It looks like people are going to get probation in small fines. And if they do get jail, which doesn't seem likely, it seems like they're ready to set this up for minimal jail time. And that is what everyone is smelling being cooked in the kitchen. As we're sniffing around, that's what it seems like. And that is what is very problematic. So being that the police chief said they're looking at possible charges, they're doing the best they can, we hope that you can take this video and use it as a little cliff notes. Use it as an aid to help you come up with some more charges. If you like the content, if you've learned anything, I ask that you please let me know in the comments section of the video. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll continue to monitor this case to see how it unfolds, to see whether or not we get justice. And what often happens is when people feel they're going to be railroaded, they're going to be treated as second-class citizens, and the law is not going to apply. That's why you see people react the way you see them do, because they are tired of being taken advantage of. And what some people look at as taking the law into their own hands, so other people look at it as, well, either we address the matter now because it's not going to be addressed. And so those are the two opposing viewpoints that have to be understood and considered. At this point, we're going to wait and see what happens. We've laid out a few additional charges that I believe should be investigated, researched to see if they can be substantiated based on all the video and witness accounts, and we'll see what happens. So again, I'm glad that you tuned in. We have a comment coming in. Someone saying congratulations on the twins. My family thanks you. Someone else said, glad no one got shot. That is another interesting point. How often do we see situations where law enforcement in various cities throughout the country pull up and immediately, when people don't disperse, begin shooting or doing other things? That didn't happen here. Some people are arguing that didn't happen because of the ethnicity of people. However, we don't know, because I don't know what's in anyone's heart or mind. All we know is what we repeatedly see on the news. And so because of what we repeatedly see, people make a correlation that certain things are happening because of race. And it's hard to dispute that when you don't see a different course or chain of events with respect to other people. So I am glad that you tuned in. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that I gave you a different perspective. And again, I just want to reiterate, every single thing that I laid out with those charges has to be proven in a court of law beyond a reasonable doubt. So they have to have the evidence, and it's not just having the evidence. Does the district attorney have the resilience, have the wherewithal to prosecute this case using its absolute best efforts? Not just showing up at court, having on a nice suit, and making a somewhat lackadaisical argument to the court and to the jury. But are they going to be persuasive? Are they going to be dogmatic? Are they going to really emphasize the seriousness of the crime, the seriousness of the assault on the rule of law and on order? Because if not, they might as well not bring it, and they might as well just keep everything the way it is, status quo, with these flimsy charges. So again, regardless of the charge that they bring, what is going to be the level of enthusiasm with which they bring the case? And that is what is important to stay tuned to and be mindful of. Again, thank you for watching. Please hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. And until next time, have a great day.